Vice President Biden, I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country.
Senator Kamala Harris there last night confronting Joe Biden on comments about working with segregationists during his time in the Senate and on his record of opposing school busing during last night's big debate. DeRoy Murdoch is a syndicated columnist and a Fox News contributor. DeRoy, good morning.
Good morning, Sandra. How are you?
Nice to have you here. What
Great
did
to
you
be
make
here.
of that moment last night?
I think that probably was the most dramatic moment in the debate last night. Kamala Harris was not at all shy about standing up to the Democrat frontrunner and standing up to him on this issue. And it's a very tough thing for Biden to respond to because, as you know, a older white male, somebody gets 0 PC points to turn around and then attack a black female. It doesn't look very good. The other thing is, anytime the Democrats bring up this issue, I always remind them that they should do so with tremendous care, because these segregationists, Herman Talmadge, James Eastland, and others, were Democrats. These are not Republicans. So it gives people on the right an opportunity to remind people that the folks who passed the Jim Crow laws and enforced the Jim Crow laws with German shepherds and with fire hoses, those are Democrats who did this.
What did you make of her approach in doing this? She prefaced that very emotional plea or that emotional point by saying, I'm not calling you a racist. I don't believe you are a racist.
I think that I'm sure she sincerely believes that, but anytime you have the word racist in the same sentence as a person's name, that's probably not a good thing. It just brings that entire issue up, and it kind of lingers like a cloud over someone's head.
Well, here is Joe Biden defending his record on that stage last night.
I'm the guy that extended the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. We got to the place where we got 98 out of 98 votes in the United States Senate doing it. I've also argued very strongly that we, in fact, deal with the notion of denying people access to the ballot box. I agree that everybody, once they, in fact, they should. Anyway, my time's up.
But DeRoy, that last moment there where he ran out of time, surely candidates take an opportunity when they're making a strong point to roll over that time barrier. He did not.
Oh, at the cost of sort of civility in the entire debate. Yeah, he seemed like he ran out of all of his ammunition at that point, just about the time that the clock ran out. I mean, these other people don't worry about the clock. They just keep talking and talking and talking normally.
Kamala Harris tweeted this out after the debate last night, a picture of herself as a young girl with this caption: "There was a little girl in California who was bused to school. That little girl was me. #DemDebate." So clearly you're calling her a winner.
Oh, I think she was very much a winner, and I think Biden lost a lot of ground in that exchange last night.
But still, some news this morning. Atlanta's mayor has now officially endorsed Joe Biden. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, reading this straight from the news this morning. She's officially a Democrat supporting Joe Biden for president in 2020, providing crucial support from a high-profile black female political leader. Why? Her biggest point is she believes he's the one who could beat Donald Trump.
That's true. That's a very, very good endorsement for Biden. He could have mentioned last night that John Lewis, the civil rights legend who was beaten trying to register blacks to vote in the South, he endorsed Biden. If I were Biden, I would have mentioned that. He's also got tremendous black support in the polls. He might have brought that up, too. I think that would have helped diffuse this moment a little more than what happened.
Here's another exchange. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden over federalizing civil rights. We'll get your response, DeRoy.
There was a failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA, because there are moments in history where states fail to preserve the civil rights of all people.
Quite a moment there, too, DeRoy.
Absolutely. Well, what you oddly found there was Joe Biden essentially making a states' rights defense on civil rights, which is kind of what you'd expect somebody from the segregationist South to make. And if you're a federalist and you believe that the central government should do certain things and the states should do others, you might agree with that. But I was very surprised to hear a leading Democrat say, well, it's really something the states should decide. That's kind of what the whole civil rights movement was designed to fight.
Did you agree with her tactic to take on the frontrunner on that stage last night?
Absolutely. Look, if she wants to knock the frontrunner out and become the nominee, she's going to have to knock him out at some point. And why not start last night?
Gerard
Technically
Murdoch,
very smart.
great to have you here.
Great to
Hope
be
come
with
back
you.
soon.
Hopefully
All right.
so. Thank you.
As I just announced a few moments ago, I will be donating part of my liver to my sister Colleen. And stay on baseball. Recently on Instagram, I get this message from Dr. Joe Galati, who's a Yankees fan like me, and sends me some pictures of some Yankees he met in the 60s. He knew nothing about my case. He's not involved in the case, but he's an expert on liver donations and transplants.
That's
and
right.
Dr. Joe Galati is here because he wants to tell us a little bit about the surgery. Welcome.
Well, Ed, first I want to say this is, your donation is probably the ultimate altruistic act of selflessness to help your sister. And I'm truly honored to be part of this discussion here with you today and the transplant journey for your sister.
What can I expect?
Well, this is a big surgery for you. And the good news is that in 2019, the technology is well refined. But yet it is a big surgery. And so after the initial operation, you're going to wake up in recovery with tubes. Tube in your nose, tube coming out of your side, tube in your bladder, all kinds of intravenous lines. And so it's going to be a brisk recovery because you're healthy, and as you talked about earlier, you've really gotten tuned up. But I think the main thing is that during this recovery, you may wake up in a day or two and feel absolutely awesome. But then 4 days later, not feel so good. So for you, not only the recovery, you have to be able to deal with the ups and the downs and try to find a middle ground so that you have really good expectations. But it's going to be a process of you to recover.
So I have to ask, how can he help himself in that recovery period? What can he do to speed it up, to have those good days be more prevalent than the bad?
Well, I'm a big believer in the mind-body connection. And what I think, you have to picture yourself that you're going to get well, first of all. But a lot of what is going to happen, your digestive tract is going to be a bit messed up. You're going to have trouble with nausea, and your bowels aren't going to move. But you have to force yourself to eat, to try to eat and take liquids. The second thing is, it's a big operation. You're going to be on your back for a day or so. Getting out of bed and ambulating and taking those deep breaths and not being afraid that the incision is going to open up.
I talked to someone who went through this. She's very healthy 3 years later, and as a donor, she said, once you start walking, you go from patient to person.
No, absolutely. And it's getting out of bed, and I am sure the nurses and the doctors are going to get you out of bed, if not that, later that day, the very next day. And the idea is to ambulate and get moving real fast.
How about, and Ed's doing all this for his sister Colleen.
Yes.
How about on her side of the ledger? How do you realize whether it's been successful?
Well, the tough thing with her in all of our transplants, we break it down into the first 24 hours, the first week, the first month or so. And there are all these different milestones to make sure there are no surgical complications immediately. We want to see that there's no problems with rejection with Ed's liver.
That should help because we're siblings?
You would think that and it certainly is a benefit rather than a random match donor. And so she is going to have her own separate set of milestones, making sure she does not get any infections, getting her off the respirator, making sure that the dosing of the immunosuppression is appropriate and that there aren't any kidney complications. But most, post-transplant, we always worry about infections, and that's going to be something that everyone's going to be looking at.
Doctor, I did not know that the liver regenerates. I think that's something a lot of people. How does that happen?
That is an amazing fact. So how does it do it? It is programmed to regenerate. And the great thing, as Ed was saying, maybe he's going to be losing 30-40% of his liver. His sister is going to be getting that part. It knows exactly how much space to grow into and not continue to grow. That would be a crazy thought. And so within several weeks, a repeat CAT scan or MRI, you will see that this small piece of a liver will fill the space, stops growing, functioning perfectly, and it's an absolute miracle.
It really is. Now, Ed likes to have a drink here or there. Is he going to have an even healthier liver now?
Well, I'd like to think he's going to be healthier because of this experience. But the one thing, everybody talks about the liver regenerate. So what patients tell me is that they think they can in a sense, trash their liver because it's going to regenerate. The truth is, regeneration of the liver is what leads to cirrhosis. That's a little fact that a lot of people don't remember. And so for everybody, you want to take care of your liver at all times. And yes, it regenerates, but you don't want to rely on
And
that.
I've been told no alcohol for 6 months after the surgery, and then obviously you would probably go to very moderate use after that to make sure your body...
I would think so. You know, when you look at this, Ed, you're going to get through this well. It's a big operation. You want to pamper your liver and pamper your whole body. That's really what you want to do.
You know, you're my kind of doctor. You have a great bedside manner.
Yeah.
I would be nervous if I were Ed. I'm sure Ed will go through a range of emotions that morning. What's your best advice that you could give him as he heads into surgery on Tuesday?
You know, this sitting here is like no other, very similar to the family meetings that we have.
This is the best I've felt in a long time.
Just about every day. The main thing is there's going to be these highs and these lows. You have to find the middle ground. Now, the other thing, which is different, you're going to be tied up, in a sense, recovering yourself. A couple of doors down is your sister. And so you're going to be getting secondhand information. How is she doing? What's happening? And you're going to feel very insecure that you cannot go visit. And that's really what you want to do. So you have to deal with the emotion of her getting better and her own recovery.
We'll get through it. Thanks for advice from people
Thank
like you.
you
We
so much.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Best of luck.
We will pamper you, Ed.
I heard tampering.
Yes.
I want to say, maybe some spa treatments or something.
you
That'd be
go.
nice.
Yes.
Do that. Also, hey, we should note there's a GoFundMe page too, Ed.
Yeah, I'm going to get you a link. We're going to put it on foxandfriends.com, a GoFundMe for my sister's medical costs. There it is. It'll be at foxandfriends.com. If you can help, that'd be great. But I just think getting public awareness is the most important thing. So thank you.
Love it.